What's up guys, Andy Squid here, back for another video. And today I'm starting a new series. It's called Andy Time. And it's pretty much just, it's not really anything original. It's just kind of like Fridays with PewDiePie and some of those different things YouTubers have, where they just have their own little thing where they can do whatever they want. Challenges, maybe like their top 5 favorite games ever, or doing something with someone, or I don't know, just doing a lot of random fun stuff. So yeah, and I thought for the first episode, since I love games so much and I've been a gamer for a pretty long time, I wanted to talk about my top 3 favorite games because I have a lot more games that I like than that. But I don't really know specifically where to put them. These 3 are the only ones I'm like concretely aware of what I think of them. So yeah. But before I start this list, I'm going to show a little honorable mention, which is God Hand. The lighting is a little bit shit. That probably didn't help at all. Wait a second, guys. There we go. God Hand. So this is a game that's regarded for being incredibly hard. I haven't beaten it yet, which is why I haven't put it on my proper list yet, because I want to beat it first. But from what I've played, it's absolutely amazing. The stages aren't too complicated, which is pretty much the only thing holding it back. And to be quite honest, the story isn't anything to write home about either. It's just a game that's trying to do well with the one thing it excels at, and that's the action. And then for the rest of the time, it just tries to be silly with the story. And you know what? With just trying to do those 2 things, I think it really excels. And for example, the combat is really good. You can make whatever combo you want, from a combo that's good at stunning enemies so you can use special attacks on them, or just a combo that does a lot of damage, or a combo that juggles them, and you can like customize your combo down to every single little move, and you can buy power-ups to get more moves in your combo. It's pretty cool. And you can also get power-ups for getting more health and stuff. And along the way, there's also this really cool system with, since it's such a hard game, you can be a wuss and just go through the stage and try to dodge everything. But for the ones that can deal with a challenge, there are these random girls around the stages. It's really fucking weird. And the enemies are like keeping them hostage, attacking them. But if you save them and you kill all the enemies trying to attack them, you get a reward, which can either be health pickup if you're really low on health, or it could be a completely new combo technique, or it could even be a special move. There are these special moves called roulettes that are really good, and you can even get those from them, which means that even though it might be a lot harder to go for them and then fight the additional enemies, you still get a really good reward for it. So yeah. But probably the best thing about the game is the bosses. The bosses are so good. They're silly and they're incredibly strange, but they have such cool attacks that are easy to dodge, but they do so much damage, so you always have to concentrate on if you have to dodge to the left, to the right. They can do quick dashes forward, so you'll have, and sometimes they can even do an attack where maybe they'll punch forward and then change direction with their attack, so you have to dodge multiple times in the span of like a second. It's a really quick game. And in terms of the story, I honestly absolutely love it. It's crazy, but it is so ridiculously fun. It breaks the fourth wall. Some of the environments and characters you meet are completely ridiculous. At one point in the game, one of the stages is you go to like this desert and you see a giant mechanical crab spider thing. I don't know what it is. And that's your stage. You walk around on a giant mechanical crab spider thing. It's just so strange. And then on top of it, you fight like robot guys and gals and all sorts of weird bosses. And also just the whole concept of the game. You play as a normal human who got attacked by the bad guys and they cut off your arm. And then some girl that you saved from them replaces your arm with the God hand, which is pretty much the power of a god in your arm. It's really fucking weird. But yeah, I really like it. It's not on my top 3, but that's pretty much just because I haven't completed it yet. I got to boss number 9, but I really like it. And while a lot of people back in the day when it was released gave it a lot of flack for being unfair and being incredibly hard, I really don't think so. I get mad incredibly easily, and I still stick with the game. I don't think it's unfair at all. You can always see when bosses attack you that you can easily dodge it. There is no point in the game where I would say it's really that unfair. I think there's only like one boss I've met so far that was a bit over the top maybe, but everything else is fair in the game in my opinion. So yeah, that's my honorable mentions. Now let's get started with the top 3. So at number 3 we have an amazing cinematic PS2 great Greek tale, which is God of War. I really like the second game, but I do not think it's that memorable. It just kind of felt like a continuation of the first game. Also, I think while there were only 3 bosses in the game, they were way more memorable and felt like they needed to be in the story. And the second game was just like, oh, now you're just randomly walking along and now you meet fucking Perseus. There just wasn't much build up to these guys, and while I must say the Hydra didn't have much build up either, and you just fought them, but at least he has the good thing about him of being like an epic first boss, which pretty much every game has, and I think that's a good thing for the God of War series. And while the second game has that, pretty much all the other bosses really aren't that well built up or anything. Even Zeus, the final boss, and the Sisters of Fate still aren't as well built up as like Ares, and how Pandora's guardian was it was the guardian of the entire temple that was hiding like this godly power, Pandora's box. So it really felt like an epic moment when you fought that giant thing, and it was just really badass. And also, speaking of a cinematic game, this game is so freaking cinematic for a PS2 game. Jesus. The cinematography is really good. The camera always points... Well, the camera's always positioned in a way so everything just feels so much more epic than it would if it wasn't as cinematic. I don't know. It's hard to explain. And one place where you can really see that is with the first boss battle, the Hydra. The final, button thingy to kill it, the quick time event, was so awesome. For a PS2 game, I have honestly never seen anything like that. It was crazy. When you just fucking stab it in the eyes with your Blades of Chaos and jump down from the mast and just slam its head into the mast. That's so fucking cool. And honestly, also the journey the game took you on from Athens to the Desert of Lost Souls to Pandora's Temple on top of freaking Kronos, the dad of Zeus and the giant Titan. That's pretty cool. And also that bit at the end when Ares throws, I think it's like a giant stone column or something, and it just impales you on a wall, and you go to hell and literally escape the realms of Hades. That was pretty cool. So yeah, that's why God of War comes in at number 3. And at number 2, I would actually maybe change it around a bit and say this is my number 1. Although I think my number 1 is just such an important game to me, so I still think it ranks number 1, but I don't think I've ever experienced anything like this. It made such a connection with me, and that's Kingdom Hearts 2. I was afraid that I was going to think that the convoluted story and stuff was going to be completely absurd and stupid, but honestly, I do not get what people are talking about. I get that people say that it's incredibly convoluted, and yes, it is a bit too absurd with some of the plot points, especially with the whole Ansem thing with Xehanort and, Ansem the Seeker of Darkness, with, not Xehanort, Xemnas, with the original version of a Master Xehanort who took over Terra. It's just a big mess. But I must say, when you understand the whole Kingdom Hearts thing and you get the story and there's not really anything you don't understand, then yeah, it might be complicated, but I don't get what the problem is. I honestly had no problem with the story. It was a bit complicated, but I enjoyed it. I thought the combat was really fun. I kind of see where people like IGN are coming from with their original Kingdom Hearts 2 review, that the combat is just completely mind-numbing. But I'm going to have to disagree with that, because I honestly think that there were enough enemies that provided something new and something different, as well as bosses, that I honestly don't think it ruined the game too much. And while I haven't played the first game, I can say that I can imagine it is pretty awesome that you go through the worlds twice, also because it adds some more depth to the worlds. Also, the bosses were incredible. I loved the Organization 13 bosses. And not only that, but all of the connections with Roxas and Sora, I really liked. Some of the emotional moments, like when Sora had to say goodbye to the guys in Twilight Town to, I don't remember their names. I think it's Pence, Olette, and Hinner. Yeah. And he starts crying, but he doesn't even know them. And you figure out, oh yeah, that's Roxas inside of him. That's cool. I think it's it's just a little thing they put in there, but I still think it impacts the game that they have things like that in the game. So yeah, I really liked all of the little things with Roxas and Naminé and stuff. And while the concept of nobodies is a bit ridiculous and gets really convoluted at times, I liked that too. I thought there was a lot of cool little emotional things with it. I think they executed it well enough for what it was. And the game really connects with you with the whole heart thing. That's something a lot of other people have mentioned, but yeah, I really agree with them on that. I don't know why, but it just really connects with you. It might have something to do with all the Disney characters and stuff, but I just love it. I think it's such a good game. Technically speaking, it is a really good game, but it isn't a masterpiece, but I love the game. I think it's really, really good. So yeah, that's why it comes in at number 2. And at number 1 is, well, yeah, it easily has way bigger, I don't know, like way bigger impact on me than any of these other games, and that's Shadow of the Colossus. I love this game so much for so many different reasons. I love it for the big, beautiful world, and while it's so empty, it's still so atmospheric, and all the environments are just so beautiful, from lakes to forests to temples. I just love the world, and the bosses, which are like the main focus of the game, well, along with the story, which I'm going to get to in a moment. Well, the bosses are absolutely incredible. I think they are some of the greatest boss battles ever. My favorite boss in the game is definitely Phalanx, because he took all of the things from my second favorite boss, which is Avion, and pretty much made it even better. He is so huge and so cool looking. He just comes out of the sand like a giant worm. It's so cool. And I also loved how you had to use aggro to ride up to him and jump onto his wings and grab on mid-air. That was just so cool. And with shooting his sacks and stuff with the bow, I just loved the fight, and I loved all of the bosses. I loved the variety of bosses, from tiny bull bosses. While people say that they think it's a bit stupid for it to be in there when it's a game about Colossi, I honestly didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was cool. It added some variety to the game. I didn't have a problem with it. And yeah, I liked the bosses. And the music was absolutely incredible. Probably the greatest gaming soundtrack I've ever heard, at least. I love it so much. It's such an epic score for such an epic game. And then to the story. Well, yeah, it's emotional. It's well done for how simple it is with how little cutscenes it actually uses, but there is so much within that little story, and it's just so well done, so emotional. For example, at the end, spoiler alert, when you think that Aggro dies and he falls down, well, yeah, you think he dies, and then at the end, when you're dead, you're betrayed, you turn into a monster and you die, he comes back alive, limping, hurt. It just completely, I don't know, the first time I saw that, it made me so fucking sad. Not only that, just the whole ending of all of this was for nothing. She came back to life, but you're never gonna see it. You're dead. It's over. And then that surprise reveal at the end of seeing you reborn as a child with horns, linking back to Eco, where the main character Eco has horns, and you're like, whoa. And then, yeah, it's crazy. And you can even see the Queen's Castle from Eco in the background. There's so many little connections and so much awesome story, and I just love it. It's emotional. It has absolutely incredible bosses, some amazing music, and an incredible, beautiful world. And also the feeling of loneliness and how you attach yourself to aggro just because you are so lonely. So this silent animal becomes your best friend. And also with little things like the bosses where you actually need aggro, so you connect even more with him through all you both have been through. It was so smart and it was so well done and created a complete and utter masterpiece, which is why, in my opinion, Shadow of the Colossus is, in my opinion, the best game of all time. So yeah, that was my little top 3. It was actually a lot longer than I thought for what it was. But yeah, see you next time, guys. Bye.